Hey friends, today Elemental Therapy is very excited to present a master psychotherapist, esoteric psychotherapist, and 5th-generation fortune teller, Drew Clark. He lives in Silicon Valley, but he can do readings over the Skype or over the phone, and I was blown away by his insights. So, highly recommend. Here he will be talking in this masterclass, he'll be talking about the fundamentals of what he learned from his family growing up as a fortune teller, and his method and approach to this ancient art of healing.
I use mythology, I use the grand story of the tarot, and I use just, the experiences that I've built working with people of all different places from all over the world. And again, it's like, everyone's the same. Like when you saw me, when you walked in, you're like, you're so familiar. Mm-hmm. There's like something about you. And everywhere I go, people say that. And everywhere I go, I meet people that have a similar sort of energy. I've met someone like you 30 or 40 times. I'm not saying that you're not an individual person, you know what I mean? But there's just certain sort of like archetypes that people fall into.
Archetypes.
Yeah,
that's
like certain sort of like, and those change sometimes. Sometimes we're the fool, and sometimes we're the magician. Sometimes we find ourselves in a tower moment, and then sometimes
many times. Tower.
And sometimes we're the devil,
Yeah, that too.
But all of these are valid experiences that we have, and using the tarot, we're able to sort of understand those sorts of things. So whenever I go into like meeting a seeker for the first, that's what I call like a client, somebody coming, I call them a seeker, because what they're looking for is they're seeking information, they're seeking knowledge about themselves, right? And really, that's what everybody is looking for, is knowledge about themselves. That's why we do everything. Why we have religion, why we have art, why we have music. It's all like, there's like this sort of this, we want to know more about the world, but what we really want to know is more about ourselves, because that's really sort of hidden from us, right? Mm-hmm. So people sit down and they say, I want to know this and I want to know that. And I tell them, like, I don't know any of that. And I don't think I ever will, but you know that. And my job is to help you find it. I look at the tarot and fortune telling as like a key, and as a key that will unlock the secrets within you. We all have the answers to our problems, all within us. I personally don't like to really talk a lot about sort of the mystical aspect of things, but there's experiences within us. You could say it's like, like ancestral memory. You could say it's past lives. You could say it's attachment to the Akashic records. There's so many different words to describe the knowledge that exists within us. Have you ever heard those stories of people who get into car accidents and they're in a coma for 6 months and they wake up and they can speak French and they've never been to anywhere where there's like people that speak French? They're like from somewhere in Iowa, but they can speak it, and no one's like, how, right? It's that our brains are always constantly picking up on the world around us. We're just so perceptive naturally, and we just compartmentalize it, we hide it, and we explore it in dreams, right? Mm-hmm. So when Arthur Waite, the guy who, with Pamela Coleman Smith, wrote like the most popular tarot that we actually have that copy of the tarot with you right now, right? It's the one that we all think of as like tarot cards, right?
That's a deck I have too. It's my favorite.
It's the quintessential deck. Yeah. The book that originally went along with it was entitled The Pictorial Key, because his belief, as along with Pamela Coleman Smith, was something very similar. It was a little more religious, but the idea is that these symbols, which are so like, ingrained in us from just everywhere. Like there's so many images in these cards that once you start looking, you'll see everywhere. Like if you ever go to Vegas, you will see the Wheel of Fortune everywhere. You will see pentacles everywhere, because pentacles are money, right? And money is the closest things we have to magic, right? Because money helps you manifest your desires. With money, you can launch things into the sky. You could solve world hunger. You could destroy species. You could do whatever, right? So these cards right here, they all are, you know, archetypical, but like, yeah, they have these symbols that are just ingrained in us, and they're like a key to open up the secrets that we are hiding from ourselves. So I tell people that I sit down, because I personally don't think I'm psychic. I mean, a lot of people think I am, and maybe I'm pretty intuitive, but that just comes from, you know, listening to people. And really, that's what fortune telling for others is all about. It's about listening and holding space. So many people who practice tarot, I've noticed this, like, they'll start doing it and they'll start talking about the card. Oh, this is what this, and just keep on talking, and they'll keep on talking. And really, it's a key that can help the seeker talk.
I don't like this card.
Oh yes, the Three of Swords is a horrible card.
I know how it feels. Too many times.
I'll go into the importance of doom in fortune.
Thank you.
I do believe that, I'll just say it really quickly right now. I think that people are naturally very, very suspicious of unilaterally good news. You know, I've gone to like parties and stuff like, please we don't want any no negative readings, only happy readings. And I'm like, okay. And then you do it, and people just don't, it doesn't connect with them, because like in the movie The Matrix, you know, when you're like, oh, we originally built a Matrix, and it was beautiful, and it was great, and it was like paradise, but people rebelled against it. Because people, like, when everything seems too good, it seems wrong.
Yeah.
So things like swords, the sharp things in life are the things that define life. You know, you can't, the pain is what makes you know you're alive. You know, and that's what sort of swords represent. Again, it's part of the grand story of life, the pictorial key, if you will. So I never tell people that I'm psychic, and they may think that I am. I just think that I'm like good at listening. And I was talking to Amy earlier about how people don't go to fortune tellers or tarot readers or psychics when everything is good in their lives. If you are having a perfect life with no problems, a happy marriage, your kids are successful, your dog is beautiful, and everything's great, why do you need to go pay someone? No, you don't have to. People are coming to you when they have problems that they can't explore themselves, and that they feel uncomfortable talking about to other people. So when you are a fortune teller, some people get into fortune telling because they want people to think that they have power. I see that all the time. They're all like, oh yeah, I'm a fortune teller, yeah, I'm psychic. It's like, no, it's kind of like, I want to say like you're a therapist. You are like a healer.
Yes.
You know?
And a shrink.
Yeah, in the culture that I grew up in, the word for fortune teller literally means healer. You know, you're holding space for someone to work through their problems, right? So one thing, and it's the most obvious thing that people are looking for when it comes to going to fortune tellers, is they're looking for something sacred, something mystical. They're looking for like that vibe. You know, they're looking for, you know, a sense of mystery. So my space where I do my readings is full of tons of like occult like props and symbols. I have a wall that's completely covered in mirrors, because I tell people that it's, when they sit down, it's not about me, it's about them. So when they sit down across from me, they have all these reflections of themselves staring back at them instead of just me, because I can be distracting. They're looking to have like sort of a sacred place where they feel that their feelings are validated. It's like when you go into a church, like people who are very religious, when they go into a church, they expect it to look a certain way. They want there to be crosses and lights, and they want there to be like images of the saints, because that is part of their paradigm. That helps them like express the things in themselves that they're having trouble expressing in real life, right? So I have crystal balls, you know, because I love crystal balls, and also my clients love crystal balls, and it connects with them, and I'm connecting with them. It's all about connection. The hardest thing to do, and the most important thing to do when you're working with a seeker, is you have to build that connection with them. You have to connect, because if you don't connect, then you're just like, you might as well just be reading for yourself, reading for a blick wall, right? So eye contact is important. Creating that sense of mystery, a sense of the place that they're going into is different than the place they came from. You know, and you do this really well in your yoga space here. You know, like outside, it's like, oh, Boynton Beach, you know, there's a raw bar down the street, you know, everyone's supposed to get Axe body spray. But then you come in here and it feels
It's
different.
a sacred space.
It feels like a sacred space. So
Sacred
you have
space.
to, even if you're like at a party or at a nightclub or at a bar and you just have a little table and just have like a little candle, that is enough of a sacred space to pull someone in. And then once they're in there, you can connect with them. And at that point, I always say that you have to explain to them your personal mythology. So, since we have the internet now, I've noticed sort of a homogenization of personal mythology. So, everyone has a story. Everyone has, why did you get involved in yoga? What was the thing that made you, when you, this is it, this is what I'm gonna do. There's a story, right?
There is.
I wanna hear it.
When I was little, I connected with a yoga teacher at the rec center that I used to go to camp with. And I just remembered how good it made my body feel and how good I felt. And getting into this space where I could just be completely one with myself and I'm as a healer, it just made sense to me to connect with your own body so that you can understand how to connect with others for healing. And it's just part of my life, I guess. But it stemmed from when I was 5 years old and this yoga class where I just was like, it was my happy place. So.
See, that's a personal mythology, right? It's you are explaining how you got into something, and by explaining your personal mythology to the seeker, you are starting the connection. You are offering them your cup. You're like, this is me. This is how I got to be sitting here across from you. You know, you have to make that first gesture out there, right? And you know, you can make it as long or as short as you like, but it has to be two things. It has to be true, because if you try to form a connection with anyone with a lie or a deception, then it's just going to taint anything. And that's for anything in life. If you start out with a lie, it's going to remain a lie. So your person has to be true, and it also has to be interesting.
Yeah.
You know, you could have just said, I thought it was really cool, and so I started doing it, and yeah, so I'm making money off it, and that's cool. Like, that's not interesting. It has to have like an emotional resonance.
Oh, there's more to that too. I fell away from it for a long time. Now that you've expanded and my brain started going, I actually went through a huge personal tragedy 11 years ago, and I ended up in this neighborhood, and down the street they opened up a studio, and funny enough, inside of this studio, it was painted exactly like my home, which I didn't have anymore, because my tragedy was my house burnt down. And so whenever I went there, and I could literally walk there, and it was donation, so I could pay, even though I really didn't have much. But when I walked in, I was like at home again. So that was a very big part of my healing.
I had no idea.
You had no idea.
How interesting.
And so hearing that, don't you feel more connected to her now than you did before?
Absolutely. Now I know why this is such a sacred space and why this looks like a home too.
Yeah, now my house is super colorful.
Yeah, and this one
but that place just happened to be
amazing.
painted, which was bizarre because it was an odd color, and the way that they did like the sponge work on the wall, it was exactly the same colors as my house and the same texture, which I stayed up late at night doing with a sponge and a gauze cloth. And here I walk into this place and I'm like, oh, I found home.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's I use the term personal mythology instead of my background, because we're talking in a different language now. Once we're doing the fortune telling thing, once we're using cards, we need to change the paradigm of how people are perceiving the world around them. So you have to explain your background as a personal mythology, as like you have to talk about the emotional resonances of it. I'm not saying you have to exaggerate or make anything bigger, but you have to, like the way you're doing it, you have to approach it from almost like that narrative angle, because it's a narrative exercise. A fortune, and I call it fortune telling. I know that is an out of vogue term, but I personally find a lot of beauty in it. Not only because it is part of my family history, but it has a long history in the world in general. You know, like fortune tellers were advisors to kings and queens and emperors, or their oracles of Delphi that King Leonidas went to consult before the battle of what was that one, Thermopylae. You know, there's nothing wrong with being a fortune teller. Fortune comes from the word fata, which means fate, and fate means basically death. You know, so basically you're talking about the story of of all the, because death is life, and death is what makes us, and you're telling about all the things in between. You're trying to help someone along. So that's the reason why I prefer to use that term. I don't see any slur or anything degrading by referring to myself as that. Again, I find a lot of strength in it. So, when I'm talking about this, I'm not trying to say be fortune tellers, like, and try to hustle people or whatever. Use whatever term you want, but that's the term I was using. But a fortune, which is what the ultimate goal of someone sitting down is, basically a bit of advice. Is like, it's background, it's talking, and then it's a prediction. You always end with a prediction, and a prediction isn't like, it's not like saying this is going to happen. It's like just imagine, like we're all, except for you, we're all adults here. We you will have your own personal mythology soon. It's going to happen soon, my friend. I don't know. It's only cool in hindsight. It's never cool when you're going through it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But it's we're all in the process. We've all seen the same. We've all seen the same story again and again and again. We've read the same book again and again and again. We can see something like a young person is doing, and we're gonna know exactly how that turns out, right? And we can tell them, like, it's gonna. You're like, no, it's gonna be different. I'm different, and it turns out that way. Yeah, I told you so, right? A prediction, all it is an educated guess. A prediction isn't something that's written in the stars. It's if you continue along the path that you're going, the most likely outcome is this. You know, we have a limited amount of choices, and the path that it goes on, I mean, you can completely change it, yeah, like there is free will. But usually in my experience, people don't. Like, we just follow the same patterns. So a fortune is a narrative, sort of like a little narrative story that you tell a person about their own life. And in a lot of ways, they kind of tell you that. I'm going to tell you how to do that in a second. So, personal mythology, and that's about building that connection. You have a sense of mythology, a sense of mystery. You have props, and like personally, when it comes to my props, I always have, especially when it comes to like a small sort of like intimate setting, I can't bring people into my space. I always bring 4 things, and each of those 4 things sort of represent the 4 suits, and the suits are, you know, cups, swords, staves, and coins, right? And each one of them represents, so you have like little things, and you know, it's always good to have them, so you talk about them, you know, like hand them to the person, there's a tactile thing, anything that you can do to connect, to keep that connection going with your seeker will continue the connection and make the whole fortune ultimately better. So that, and then finally we get to the point where we want them to ask the question. You know, if a lot of times when you're like a party atmosphere, right, you get a lot of those people who are skeptics, or a lot of those people who just don't know what they want, right?
You get a lot of people that would never ever go to a fortune teller or tarot reader on their own free will, but it's kind of like everyone at the party is doing it, so they might as well.
Yeah.
So that kind of gives, you know, a little more understanding for the fact that they sit down and say, like, I don't know what I want to ask, you know, because they're not even the personality type to come and ask a question, you know.
So that right there is really important, because I was talking to her about this before you guys came in, you know, but no one goes to a fortune teller when they're happy, right? So what you want to do is you want to let it be known that you're holding space for them. That's really what all this is holding space, which means you are there for them. You're a listener, and holding space is about listening. So I try to do as little talking. I'm doing a lot of talking right now, but when I'm fortune telling, I try to do as little talking as I can. I want to get the other person to talk. And sometimes people are just really close-lipped, and there's nothing that you can do. But most of the time, there are different strategies that you get someone to open up to you. And usually, people will say, when you can tell they're being rested when they say, I don't know, I don't have any questions, I don't know. It's just, you know, can you just like just do your thing? And everybody has problems. There's no one. I bet you have problems right now, right? Exactly, right? You don't, yeah, everyone's in the moment, but everyone has problems. Everyone has issues that they're going through, and they may not even know it themselves. Right? The actual fortune has 3 parts. It has the quandary. I'll say either the choice or the dilemma. Choice and dilemma. And then finally, I call it the doom, but it could also be like fate. But this right here, so everybody likes to get rid of the doom part of the fortune. So the quandary is the description. They sit down, it's like, I'm going to describe to you the problem that you told to me from a different angle, right? And most likely they've already told you what the problem is, but no one is able to. You can say what your problem is, but you're not going to actually hear it until someone says it to you, which is why you have to listen. You know, it's like they'll talk, and you have to listen to every single thing they say, and that's really hard. So it takes a lot of concentration. You have to be really focused, and if you're still in your own ego, you're not going to be listening. So you have to swallow that, step into the role, wear your ridiculous costume, listen to what they say, actually care. And that's the thing, is you actually have to care. And it's not easy to do that as a fortune teller. Care about what they're saying, and listen, and then tell them what their quandary is. It's like, you see, and the cards, somehow they always seem to like line up right. Now, I mean, there's a lot of different explanations for that. It could be just, you know, the whole Barnum effect, you know, people see what they want to see. It could be that, like, I personally feel that there's just like, I do believe that there's forces beyond our understanding. There's subtle things that happen. I really do feel that when you're shuffling the cards and you're talking, you know, like, just things sort of happen. You know, I'm not going to try and explain it because we only have a limited amount of time, and I don't have enough alcohol for that. But still, you have to listen, and then you have to repeat to them what their problem is with the cards, right? All the cards are is, they all are, have you looked at those cards? Have you seen, all of them are full of symbols. They're chock full of symbols. There's tons of, why did you, really? Like, so he was just playing with them, and this is the card. See this card?
And then he hands it to you.
Here!
What is it?
Thanks!
He's having a taro moment.
Oh,
You are a fortune teller, my friend.
yeah.
I'm going through a tower moment right now in my life.
Me too. Ah!
All right, so just a quick little aside. Considering that you know nothing about tarot, and I like that, I want you to look at this card, and I just want you to look at it and just look at it. Tell me what it makes you feel, like what it looks like. Describe it to me. Does it seem good? Does it seem bad?
Well, you're releasing a lot of things. You have a lot of power.
I like that. And that actually makes me feel very validated right now, because I'm going through a tower moment myself. And normally people associate the tower, and I'm not going to go into like keywords, that's a whole other thing. But normally people associate it with, like, you know, a lot of disaster, a lot of things falling down. But like, there is a lot of power in it. You know, I mean, there is the death of the ego is how I see this. And when you suffer a really big ego death, a lot of energy does get released. A lot of power. Like, I'm going through a tough time right now, but I also have never felt so powerful. You know, so that was a good job. Maybe you should start playing. I'll tell you. I'll tell you. Right. So I remember when I was 23, I was traveling across the continent, and I had no money, but I was drinking every night for free because I was going to bars and just reading cards. So I mean, you can find something to do with this skill, especially if you're just stand. I mean, you could be like the shoeless fortune teller.
I think his feet are a little sensitive. He's out there on the hard main sidewalk. Gotta get ninja feet.
Right. The next part of the fortune, but as I was saying, each one of these cards has like a ton of images, a ton of symbols on it, and each symbol is a thing that you can hang your fortune off of. So I like to look at symbols as like hooks on a wall, right? And your fortune is like a tapestry. You need to be able to hang it on things. So you look at the card and you're like, what's the quandary that they have, and what are the choices that are being presented to them by the symbols in the card, right? And there's so many symbols in each card. You just got to pick the one that you want to hang your fortune off of. It's like, I like to think of a fortune it's like a story. You know, like you put these number of cards together, you look at them and you weave a story. Like, so you saw this card and you was like, something drastic happened and there's a great amount of energy being released. First part, that right there is like the first hook, right? And then there will be like another card, and you'll say, and then since you've listened to the people, you know the problems that they're going through, and you can sit there and you can look at that card and try to find the symbols that relate to them, and they always seem to. I don't know how that happens, it just does, and you figure that out. The next part is the choice. So everyone has a choice in their life, right? So there's a quandary, and then there's the choices that you have that are being presented to you. And there's always usually at least two, sometimes there's three. There's the good choice and there's the bad choice, and sometimes there's the choice, is like, and those will be there, right? And then there's the dilemma, which is always like a, you know, it's like it's like the foil. It's like in the story, there's the hero, there's the antagonist, there's the problem that's happening, and then the resolution, right? If you think of it narratively, you have the problem, you have the big choice, then you have the dilemma, and the dilemma is the thing is the thing that's like, the choice is the good choice, the dilemma is the bad choice. So these are the things that you can do to make your situation better. These are the things that make your situation worse. And then the doom is the bad thing that can happen. Now, remember when I was first talking about how you need to have a little bit of bad things in your fortune to really make it stick. Because when people go to a fortune teller, they're looking to be spooked a little bit. Everybody wants to walk away from a fortune teller and be like, man, that was so creepy. Oh, like, did you hear what they said? Oh my God. Everybody wants to hear that. So you have to put a little bit of doom. You don't think you do.
No, I don't want to. I've had enough doom.
You know, people think that. They really, really do. But like, I think we all realize the world is nuanced. And if everything is overtly positive, we're like, all right, who has a knife behind their back? It just creates more. You want to know what is waiting that could be bad. If you don't know the doom that is out there, you can't avoid it.